All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Digital Web Kings podcast. Now, listen, I wanted to throw out an extra episode. This is a bonus episode that I thought of last night because going around what we're talking about, building a structure online, building a business that you can depend on, that you can rely on, that is constant, that is consistent. Um, this is what I've done. All right. This is where I've come from. I was a regular everyday dude. I still am, but I was working two full-time jobs and living paycheck to paycheck. I still had credit. My credit was junk, right? I was in the 500 range. 510, I think, is the lowest I got. But I was able to bring that up to a 780. And this is all one package. If you're online and you've tried to start a side hustle and you've done affiliate marketing and you have to keep restarting over, and it's mainly because I'm betting that it's mainly because you're getting links and sharing links. And that's it. That's all you understand. You don't understand anything else because that's what I did. The first years that I started to try and make money online, I was doing the same thing. I started over and over and over again. And that gets so frustrating and it gets very difficult to push through. But I read a lot of books. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on a lot of guys, and I started to learn one thing. I started to watch all of these guys, these big guys that came from nothing, right? The same thing that we're doing. And there was one thing that I noticed. All of them talked about. The undertones of their shows were all the same. It was all about structure. And when I started to understand that and I started to implement that, that's when everything changed for me. All right. That's when I was able to finally start making decisions that made me move forward, that helped me move forward. All right. So I wanted to throw this episode in here because when we talk about structure and we talk about foundation uh, around the whole financial atmosphere, credit is king, right? Credit is king. Here in America, if you live outside the United States, I don't know if you know what credit is. I'm sure you probably do, but it's king here in America. Credit is king. So I wanted to throw this episode in here on this podcast because this podcast, it's not about hype. It's not about shortcuts. And it's definitely not about pretending success is something it's not. It's a show about structure because structure works whether you believe in me or not. All right. Before we go any further, I want to say something very clearly. I want to be very, very clear about this because it matters, especially for this episode. I'm not here to impress you with a net worth number. All right. I'm not here with a best selling book title. I'm not here to sell you a lifestyle highlight reel. All right. I'm here to help you see what I saw that changed everything for me. I'm here to help you see structure, strategy. And if what I'm about to say makes any sense, use it. If it doesn't, discard it. All right. Truth doesn't need credentials to function. And today, we're talking about a piece of structure that quietly determines who moves forward and who keeps restarting. Credit is king in America, right? Not as a score, not as a judgment, but as a foundational system that most online builders completely misunderstand because there are a lot of myths out there around credit. And people get emotional when it comes to credit, right? It's not morality though. It's mechanics. And people carry so much emotional weight around credit. Shame, embarrassment, defensiveness, but it's not personal. Credit isn't personal, it's mechanical. It's credit is simply something that's measured behavior over time. All right. Payment history, utilization, consistency, and risk. That's it. It doesn't care how motivated you are. It doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care how good your intentions are. It measures patterns. And once you understand that, the conversation changes. Because when something's mechanical, it's learnable. And when something is learnable, it's controllable. That's the first anchor. Credit isn't a verdict, it's feedback. And here's why credit matters, even if you're online. All right. This is where most people mentally check out. They say, I'm online. I don't need credit. I'm not buying real estate. I'm not starting a company. But credit affects online builders more than anybody realizes. Credit affects everybody. Not because it creates income, but because it controls speed, pressure, and margin. All right, here's the pattern. Stick with me here on this. Two people start a side hustle. One has credit, one has an 800 credit score, one has a 500 credit score. All right. Two people, same exact opportunity. They have the same tools, the same training, same motivation. One can test ads without panic. One can't. One can absorb mistakes. One can't. One can move when opportunity shows up. One has to wait, save, and overthink. Same opportunity, different outcomes. Not because one is smarter, but because one has leverage. Leverage isn't loud, it's decisive. Credit doesn't make you wealthy, it makes you faster. And speed matters when opportunity windows are short. Most opportunities need to be seen right away, and they need to be taken right away. If you delay, if you hesitate, if you overthink, you miss that window. And here's why most people never fix their credit. All right. I want to talk about the main reason that people avoid credit, avoid fixing their credit. They avoid looking at it, they avoid understanding it, they avoid learning about it. It's not laziness, it's not a lack of care, it's just avoidance. Because learning how a system actually works removes excuses. And most people were taught the wrong approach. They were taught to outsource that understanding, right? Hire a company, pay a lawyer, let somebody else handle it. And I'm going to tell you something that creates dependency, not mastery. That's not freedom. Depending on somebody else is not freedom. So when you think, I'll just hire a lawyer or I'll pay one of these online gurus, please don't do that. But when you do that, you give up freedom, you give up control. And that's what this is all about. That's what we're talking about. This is the thing that I understood. One of the main pillars of understanding that I had that made everything change for me. All right. And this is the pattern that I've seen over and over again. People don't stay stuck because the solution is complex. They stay stuck because they never built a system they control. Most financial problems aren't money problems, they're system problems. And once you understand how credit reporting works, what it affects, why it changes, and how behavior is measured, then you stop feeling powerless. And that clarity will replace anxiety. And credit is a psychological multiplier. All right. This is something that rarely gets talked about. Credit doesn't just affect your finances, it affects your decision making because credit is foundation. And when you have a shaky foundation, everything feels more risky, right? Every expense is heavier. Every opportunity feels super stressful. And that pressure will change your behavior. You hesitate, you second guess, you avoid. But when your foundation is solid, something shifts. You think longer term, you make calmer decisions, and you don't panic when things fluctuate. That's not confidence, that's optional stability. Strong foundations don't make you bold, they make you calm. And calm decision makers outperform emotional ones every time. So I want to touch on this dependency a little bit more. All right. And I want to be clear. So listen, it's not about doing everything alone. All right. Doing it yourself, DIY, is not about doing it alone. It's about owning the understanding of it. The most capable people I know don't outsource that clarity. They build internal systems. Do it yourself credit repair, DIY credit repair, done correctly, is powerful not because it's cheap and not because it's fast. It's powerful because it teaches you how disputes work, how reporting works, how to protect yourself, how to avoid repeating the cycle. That's foundation. Control is always more valuable than convenience. Where credit fits in the digital web kings framework is, again, I keep saying the word, and foundation is everything, because I'm telling you, without a foundation, nothing you do will last. And what I want to do with the Digital Web Kings podcast is build webs, not ladders, right? Multiple income streams, multiple systems, multiple layers of leverage. Credit isn't the business. It isn't the income. It isn't the opportunity. It's the support beam. And there's an order to building anything that lasts. Order to building anything that lasts. You have to stabilize first, optimize second, and then scale last. People try to do that backwards. I tried to do that backwards all the time. Everything that I was doing was backwards until I understood this. And when people skip steps, the penalty doesn't show up immediately, but it always shows up eventually, 6 months down the road. That's when it comes back to bite you. And foundation can protect you from yourself. That's why this episode belongs right here before we talk about scale, before we get any further into growth. So if this episode challenged you, or if it struck a chord with you, I really hope that it did. But I understand foundation work isn't exciting, all right? But it is what separates people who build something durable from people who keep restarting. Again, it's something that I didn't understand, and one of the main reasons I kept having to restart something new every 6 months. I chased shiny objects, right? Until I found out that building a foundation, building a structure, building a web is the most important thing you can do before you try to scale anything. All right. So in the show notes, I've linked resources that align with this foundation first approach. All right. There's no hype, there's no pressure. It's just a tool. All right. It's the tool that I used whenever I was starting to build my foundation. Right. Whenever I turned my credit into something that I could leverage. All right. So this is the Digital Web Kings podcast. We don't rush. We don't pretend. We build systems that hold. Remember, real freedom isn't about income alone. It's about how many options you have when things don't go perfectly. So I wanted to throw this bonus episode in here. I really hope you got some worth from it. Next, we're going to talk about growth. We're going to talk about scale, and we're going to talk about actual systems. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for listening.